Okay, my friend, we're gonna continue because we had a short clip there, so we're gonna divide this clip 21B in B1 and 21B2. So this is 21B2, and so we'll continue with the 21B1. And so we're saying that already we have these events that led so many Banyarwanda, almost 600,000, to leave the country and then go into neighboring country, especially the flee to Rwanda, to Burundi, to Uganda, and to DRC. Now, those who run into DRC, they run as refugees. But when they run as refugees, they meet other Banyarwanda that are already there, that are the old case, as I can call them, old case. The old case meaning now those already that were they were already living in those Bavira territory or Bavira kingdom and in Bafuliro kingdom, and the other who had moved toward the west in the Minembwe and in the Itombo area. Now, we have to remember here that these Banyarwanda, they are mainly Batusi. They are not, we don't have Bahutu Banyarwanda in the South Kivu, especially in these Uvira, Fizi, and Mwenga zones. We don't have Bahutu Banyarwanda. Many of them, they are Batusi. Now, as they are living in a mountain, other Banyarwanda are coming, they are refugees. And that's why we saw now that in Congo we had refugees that were settled in Lemera camp. We have others that were settled in the Mulenge camp. Others were settled in Katobo camp, and others were settled in Kalonge in the Calais zone. So all of them, they have now to work together to see how they will go back and dethrone or take back the power and install their monarchy, or at least they have to take power. They have to take back the power in Rwanda. So they form some militias. Ruhimbika, for example, when he wrote his book, the Banyarwanda and the Banyamulenge, he wrote that there was a militia that was created in the 1920s to 1930s, and he called that militia a paramilitary militia was created. So they were preparing, because when they were living in the 1920s, they were fleeing the Belgium. Remember, in the 16, 17, 18, the Belgium just attacked the territory of Rwanda, Burundi. And we are in the first World War. The Belgium and the territory, and Musinga, who is the king here, is not cooperating with the Belgium, and he's already there diminishing his power. And so in the 30s, he's relegated in Moba in the Katanga region, and then those who descend from Minembwe go to meet him and the rest of the king's subject in Moba and Vura. Those who descend in that area became the Banyavura. Those who remain in the Bavira and in Bafulero kingdom, they are Banyarwanda. But in the 70s, then they start calling themselves the Banyamulenge. But we have also to remember that when they say that they have been there for centuries, they are also lying, because the refugee, the UNHCR and the Red Cross were calling them the Tutsi of Mulenge. That means the Banyarwanda Tutsi were living there as refugees in those camps. George West also called other Batusi the Tutsi of Itombwe, because in Itombwe there were some population that were called Batusi. But they did not mean that because they were called Tutsi of Itombwe or Tutsi of Mulenge, they were the indigenous of those areas. They were called in that manner because they wanted to identify them as such. And so we have to understand that now, as they are running into the Congo, they meet the other Batusi that are in the Congo, and now in that period of time, that's when the rebellion is also is being spread across the country. So what is happening in the DRC itself? We have data that detail how much was spent on Banyarwanda refugees settled in the South Kivu during the same period, 1960 to 1966. For example, according to the UNHCR and the Red Cross and the Oxford Committee for Farming. $333,000 USA were spent in 1963. $330 and $500 were spent in 1964. And 78,000 USA dollars were spent in 1965 just to take care of the refugees Banyarwanda Tutsi who were already settling in South Kivu region. So all these refugees were Banyarwanda Batusi. And when they settled in this area, they met other Banyarwanda Batusi who came before them. And all these Banyarwanda enrolled en masse. We have books that testify that all these Banyarwanda enrolled en masse into the rebellion. Others enrolled into the party that Kabila and Christophe Benye created. They enrolled. Why? Because they were preparing the rebellion to help the rebels in Congo to remove Mobutu Adula government, and after that they will go back and they remove Gregoire Kaibanda government. And so we also know that when they came to South Kivu, when they enrolled into those government, they had their own unit. And many of the units that were part of the rebellion were Tutsi unit. And many that were their commander were only Tutsis. For example, we had a commander called, they had the commander called Mushishi Karoli. We had also a commander called Kaira. We had also the commander who were called Munzenze and Musoni, and their deputies such as Sekunzi and Byambo. Those were leaders, Tutsi leaders, but these are among those that were already in the country. And so when the refugee came, they joined together, they formed many units, and they enrolled into the rebellion, the Mulele rebellion, and other enrolled in the party that they were created. And later, when Che Guevara, the Chilean mercenary and the Cuban mercenary, when they came into 1965 in the Eastern Congo to meet Kabila, they joined the force together, and if it wasn't that Mobutu suppressed that rebellion in 1965, we believe that the Banyarwanda would have succeeded, because Kabila and Che Guevara and Cuban mercenary, as they were fighting together with the local indigenous to make sure that the Lumumba movement was succeeding. If Mobutu did not suppress that rebellion, that made Che Guevara to leave the country and go back, return to where he came from, the Banyarwanda were satisfied. But because the rebellion was suppressed in that late October 1965, the Banyarwanda had already the unit of Banyarwanda that were ready to go and take back the power in Rwanda. So what they did, when they started the movement, when they started enrolling in the rebellion in Congo, they had their commander, but they made sure that their unit were only commanded by the Batusi. And then I gave you the name of the Batusi that were commanding those units: the Mushishi, the Karoli, the Kaira, Munzenze, Musoni, and their deputy Sekunze and Byambo. But later, when Che Guevara came in 1965, those who were sent for military training in Cuba, in Russia and China, came back, and one of them was Mundandi. Mundandi was another leader, military leader, Tutsi, who were now taking control of the Tutsi unit alongside the Congolese to fight. And after to fight, they were going to go to Rwanda and take back the power in Rwanda. Now, we have a letter that this Mundandi wrote after they were defeated in 1965. Mundandi wrote a letter to Che Guevara to explain how they were deceived, how they were They were not satisfied with the Congolese behavior, how they were not satisfied with Kabila, how they were losing, the Congolese were not serious, they were losing, and so they were ready to go back. But they divide, they split. One group returned to Rwanda and Burundi, and the other group remained. This paramilitary militia that remained in Congo is the same military militia that the Banyarwanda are used when the war of 1996 broke, which brought Kabila back into the political scene in South Kivu, in entire Congo. Now, the letter that this Mundandi now, who was controlling the Tutsi unit in the rebellion in 1965 now, here, he wrote a letter to Che Guevara before he left. This is what he wrote to him. Comrade Tatu. Tatu was the name of the Maquis, or the name of the military, what they were using, because they were not using their regular name, so they were using the military nickname. And Che Guevara here was Ernesto. Che Guevara was called Tatu. So he wrote, Comrade Tatu, concerning the situation, it is unmanageable. I must tell you that I am unable to hold my position as leader in our cause and assure the defense against the enemy. The population has betrayed us, and they have given cattle and information to the enemy about all our position strategy. I beg you to understand me. I decided to withdraw but not to abandon the Cuban comrades. At the same time, I must take my responsibility to protect the interest of Rwanda's people. I cannot expose them to extermination in this war. I will not be a good revolutionary commander and a good Marxist commander. He must analyze the situation and avoid useless loss. If all my countrymen are dead, it will be my fault. I choose to help in this revolution in order to create another in our country, the Rwanda. If the Congolese cannot fight for themselves, I prefer to die in Rwanda's soil, destined to Rwanda people. If we die on our way back, it will be good too. With all my revolutionary regard, Mundandi. So this is the letter that Mundandi wrote when Mobutu and the ANC, the Congolese National Army, defeated or suppressed the rebellion in 1965. So what I was trying to say here in this clip here, which is clip 21, 21A and B, because we already have 21A and then now we're having 21B, but this B has two other small parts. The first one is 21BA, and then now this is 21A, 21BB. What I'm trying to say here, I'm trying to show you that the Banyarwanda enrolled en masse into the movement. They fought alongside the Congolese, and then their unit were commanded by the Batusi. And many of the Batusi that are commanded are the same Batusi that they claimed were the kings. Because remember in previous video they said that they have chieftaincies, that many of those chieftaincies or kingdom were called Kingdom Gahutu, Kingdom Karoli, or Kingdom Mushishi. But these Mushishi and Karoli were military commander. They were commanding these groups, and they fought alongside with the new military Batusi who came from Burundi, and others came from Tanzania, and others came from Uganda. So they met in the area in South Kivu, and many also met when Kabila created his own party in the 1966, and then he was settled in the Hewa Bora in the Fizi zone. They were still together. The Banyarwanda, Che Guevara, and Kabila people were together in the forest of Fizi, and the Banyarwanda were part of that group. It's only when Mobutu suppressed the rebellion, when the rebellion was defeated, that's when they become discouraged. The group split, one group remained, and those who came later went back. I believe they went back to Burundi. And we saw the letter that they wrote to their mercenary Cubans here to explain why they decided to go back. So we'll end up here just to bring you to update that the Banyarwanda participated in the rebellion because their aim was to help depose Mobutu, the government Mobutu Adula, and then after that the Kabila and the Lumumbist and the Pierre and those who were rebels will go together to Rwanda and help them destroy or take over the power back in Rwanda. And so, my friend, we're going to end up today here, just so that we can finish next time when we develop part 21C, where we'll give you two other witnesses just to tell you what they say about the rebellion, and if indeed the rebellion took place in Congo, it was because the agricultural were fighting the Batusi, or because it was a political problem that was born from the grievances of population, and also it was connected to the context of Cold War that was taking place between the communists and the Marxists and the imperialists and the CIA. So we show you how the CIA played the role in the death of Lumumba, and we show you how they wanted to make sure that the rebellion was defeated because they did not want the country to go to the east, or to go to the Russian or to the Chinas. So for tonight, we're going to end up here, and then next time when we tackle video 21C, we'll give more detail about the rebellion. We'll show you what the report from the United Nations, what does it say about the rebellion, and what other witnesses like Gérard Prunier and Mukumbuzi Ntayoma, what they say about the rebellion, and if indeed they attest that the Banyarwanda were part of the rebellion in 1964, and what was their aim. And if the rebellion did not succeed, they did not all of them go to Rwanda, they remained in Congo. And then we can see now with the new rebellion that took place in 1996, when they went to bring Kabila, is because they knew Kabila, who Kabila was, because they worked with him, and then they wanted to have a Congolese picture in the rebellion so that the Congolese will receive them with an open arm, because Kabila is in the front. They did not want to bring Batusi to show that the Batusi are taking over the rebellion, but they wanted to have a Congolese picture in the fight. That's why we know where Kabila came from. And so, my friend, don't forget to review the video. Don't forget to criticize. If you have to criticize, make a comment and share. But remember, Mulenge is a place that exists, is a tradition, is an ancestral heritage, and the Banyarwanda are trying to expropriate it for their own interest. And the Bafuliru, the Babembe, the Barega, the Bashi, and the Bavira are not ready to let it go, because it's part of their culture, it's part of their heritage. So we invite you to stay tuned and hope to see you next time.